How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with Klodian Mitri. He is an awesome professional triathlete out from the Utah area. He also helps lead some pretty cool startup companies in the past couple of years, currently with a company called Redo. We talk about that, talk about his upbringing, family, immigration from Albania, and everything in between, to having kids, to going to college, to being a professional triathlete. So thank you so much to Klodian for coming on the pod today, and I hope you guys enjoy this interview with Klodian Mitri.
Very smooth start.
Sweet, dude. So, where are you at right now? Are you at work?
Work. I'm week 3 of a new job. It's
Nice.
been chaotic, but I live my
Yeah.
life in constant chaos. So here we are.
Yeah, dude. Where are you working?
So it's another startup. The startup bug kind of bit me about 3 years ago, and I've just been loving it, especially in Utah with like Silicon Slopes. It's been growing a lot. I actually had lunch with the CEO. Just kind of, I always like leaned on him as a mentor, and mostly just kind of learn how I could be a better finance leader and support the CEO of my old company.
Mhm.
But after a while, it's like I had mentors at this company. I'm like, I keep going to them for advice. I'm like, to try to learn from them.
Mhm.
Why not just work with them? And I think he could sense I was frustrated in my old job. And he pretty much just said, he's like, what are you doing in finance? You're not a finance person. You're a problem solver.
Mm.
Before you dust up your resume to leave, just give us the chance to bring you on. I was like, wow, this guy who led Divvy to a $3 billion acquisition sees something in me. Um, so I went down the rabbit hole, and
Yeah.
they brought
Nice.
me in as a head of like strategic partnerships and operations, and it's been eventful just because I think he's trying to show with this company. The company's called Redo. He's trying to show that, you know, taking Divvy to an exit wasn't just luck. So he wants to 10x this business and wants to have another successful exit. And he's a heck of a leader, heck of a visionary. And,
Yeah.
Steve Jobs is a big mentor of mine, and I've read all the books and everything. Just that those really intense people who really drive a team, drive a business. And 3 weeks in, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and it's been really awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I guess congratulations, first of all, that you've made that shift. And it sounds like it's a good shift, but something that I wanted to touch on that you said, that he, this person that you've looked up to and has been more or less a mentor to you, sees something in you. That's got to feel pretty amazing.
Yeah,
I don't think many people have had that experience.
for sure. And that was kind of like, because I had a different job offer. And I was like, maybe now's the time to be a little comfortable, good pay, chill a little bit more. And I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, this guy's willing to take a bet on me. I'm like, why am I not willing to take a bet on myself? I'm still
Mm,
young, still in my early 30s. I'm like, I'm too young to be comfortable.
yeah.
Um, and then kind of like the culture he's kind of put in place. When I told people, I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to Redo. They're like, Sterling's pretty intense. I'm like, isn't that great? But I think it just showed the mentality that people like have when they hear like, oh, he's a grinder, he's intense. I'm like, I looked at that as a positive thing, but a lot of people I think don't want to be pushed sometimes.
Mm,
Uh, I'm like, I think this is the room I want to be in.
yeah.
And the fact that he's looking at me as like someone to move the needle of the business, I think it's like high pressure situation, but I love it. I'm
Yeah.
excited. High chance I'm gonna fail, but maybe not.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Well, what does failure look like and what does success look like in this environment?
Um, the way I explain it to my wife, that's always my gauge. I'm like, does my wife know what I do? Because I mean, I come from Deloitte Consulting, and telling people like, oh, I do consulting. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't know. I consult. I whatever. But with this job, the best way that I explain it, it's like Uber, right? Uber was a major disruptor to the taxi industry. When they came on, they were breaking so many rules and they were getting fined by every city, regulatory body, whatever. Um, but they're like, that's fine. Keep getting fined, keep paying those fines. We'll figure it out. It's that whole disruptor mentality. But with Redo, it's a little bit unique because so think Redo is essentially like, when you buy from a brand, they have like for $1, we'll guarantee your return. Like we'll manage the whole return process for you. That's Redo essentially. They're that extra dollars that you pay for the return side of dealing with a merchant. So we have over like 2,000 brands that we kind of work with. However, it's tough to be a disruptor in the logistics space because there's only USPS, FedEx,
It's a
UPS.
mafia. Yeah.
Exactly. And also USPS has been around for 250 years. And um, a lot of these carriers, it's the relationship side and just figuring out what compliance looks like. It's a very dynamic, moving target. And they've essentially brought me in to kind of figure out to develop that future state to make this business scalable. Um, and it's fun because these businesses are very archaic. Like I said, USPS has been around for 250 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have tech companies that are like, I want to move fast. It's like, no, we don't want to move fast. I'm like, let's meet in between. And like I said, it's a very dynamic role, and I'm excited because I'm learning a lot. I feel like my greatest weakness is the fact that I know nothing about the logistics industry,
Mm-hmm.
mailing, parcel. But at the same time, I feel like that's my greatest strength as well. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're somewhat of an insurance company then. Is that an accurate representation? Because if there's a dollar added onto every, you're kind of hoping that the majority of those people don't need the return done because that's where you're going to make your money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So you kind of take the whole return process off of the merchant's hands, so they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's where you kind of take that gamble, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely risk. That's interesting. What percentage of people who like pay for that service do you think have to like have you guys actually follow through with getting the returns all situated and actually making the return happen?
It's very low, and that's how we've kind of become very successful in just a year period.
Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. How many on your team?
There's 100 employees or so on it. They've been around for a little over a year, and they just have had crazy growth. And I think a big part of it, I think, is the leadership team
Yeah.
and just like hiring some of the best people. Because I mean, I come from everywhere I've gone, they hire great people, but I think what you do with the players that you hire is just as important as bringing the team together.
Mm-hmm. So Silicon Slopes, you're a professional triathlete, you're a father, husband. I know a little bit about you, so this is a little bit different of an episode for me in asking these questions, but I want to know from your perspective, who is Klodian?
That's a great question. It's a question that's ever evolving. I'm just a lover of life. I just love everything. I love the people I meet. I love the fun adventures I go on. I love being pushed in new ways. I'm a very passionate person. I can be very overwhelming, but that comes with that whole like I'm just overly happy with everything that I do.
Yeah.
And everything that I do, I overdo it sometimes to the annoyance of my wife. But I don't know. I don't think I would change it anyway.
So she's more of like a base, a solution to your acidity. Does that sound right?
Yes and no. She's just as crazy as I am,
Mm-hmm.
but she's my safe place. She kind of balances me out when I need to be, but at the same time, she's the greatest thing that ever happened to me and kind of pushes me when I need to be pushed, but also wrangles me back when I need to.
Yeah. So where are you from?
Uh, Born and raised in Albania. I immigrated to the States in the late 90s. We moved to Chicago. It was serendipitous, is because it was the only place where my parents knew someone. They knew someone in California. I always wonder, I'm like, oh, what would my life would have been like if we moved to California?
Yeah.
We just people willing to help us as immigrants. We're in Chicago, and yeah, that's where we lived. I spent majority of my life there. Did college at Marquette, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I really wanted to go to Berkeley. Was scared to leave the Midwest.
Hmm.
After college, lived downtown Chicago for a while. Got married, and then we ended up moving to Germany for a year, and then came back, hopped around, lived in Hawaii for a little bit, and then
These were all job related.
Germany, yes.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, I was still working with Deloitte Consulting, and being remote at the time, a lot of my clients just were remote. We decided like, oh, we don't know where we're going to live. Not that we moved back to the States. So just live in Kauai for a little bit. We had 2 kids. And then we ultimately decided on Utah. And while our home was being built, once our home was built, then we moved back from Kauai, moved to South Jordan, Utah, just outside of Salt Lake.
Yeah. Beautiful place, which I guess I should share that you were so kind as me and my wife were trekking across the United States to find our new home. You let us stay in your house, which was quite kind of you. It's an awesome stopover. So thank you for doing that.
My pleasure.
So when you were moved, I guess back over or you moved to the U.S. and you guys immigrated, was the Albanian culture still something that you guys tried to hold pretty close, like only speaking Albanian in the home and that kind of stuff, or was it fully assimilation, get it going?
It's all we speak at home.
Yeah.
I still remember to this day because I knew a lick of English when I came. My mom was like, we need the kids to speak English around us so we can learn English. My dad was like, no. And it's all we speak at home. My sister and I, we sound very American, but my parents still sound like they're off the boat
Yeah.
from Albania. But it's all we speak at home. And now we're at that weird crossroads where it's like, my parents are like, you need to teach the kids Albanian. And I'm like, why? Like, you speak English great. Like, why are like it's to a certain degree, it's a pointless language to pass on, but I want them to appreciate their heritage, the culture, and I think there's the roots of the culture that they can embody. Learning a pointless language, I'm like, that's a little challenging for me to try to teach on, especially when my wife doesn't speak it either. So,
Hmm. How old were you? You said when you made the move?
I was 7.
You were 7. So I mean, that's old enough to where you can start to experience some culture shock and obviously learning a new language. It's hard enough to make friends at that age. So what was that like? Do you have any memories of just what that period of life was like?
Oh yeah, it was like we didn't have. My parents mostly came here for my sister and I for the American dream. When we came, we didn't have a lot. Like my dad came with like $1,000 in his pocket. We shopped at a thrift store. We slept on like a mattress, all 4 of us that we got at the thrift store. So I remember to this day being like 3rd grade and someone making fun of me for having like 2 different socks. I'm like, at least I have socks on. I'm like, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
I don't think that was a big deal. There's like little things like that. Just, I mean, kids are definitely bullies, but all kids are bullies. I just didn't realize. Yeah, it was just things were a lot different. But I mean, America is awesome. Like I couldn't imagine what my life would be if I was still in Albania, which is the equivalent of third world country sometimes. Yeah, it's just a totally different life, and that's why I kind of like really appreciative of this life that I have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so when you guys came over, your mom and dad, I'm assuming your mom took care of you guys, but what did your dad end up doing to like figure out how to
My
support?
mom didn't take care of me. I took
Yeah.
care of my sister.
Really?
My parents literally worked 20-hour days. It's
Wow.
insane. I just because, well, I mean, they were engineers, they were respected engineers. My parents are so ridiculously smart,
Yeah.
but they came to America and their credentials were invalid.
Yeah.
And you have to work to provide for your family. So my dad ended up being like a butcher's assistant at a grocery store. I still like to this day remember the smell of like being in a freezer.
Mm.
Just like that's what my dad smelled like growing up. He spent all day in a freezer.
Wow.
Um, and that smell just like sticks with me. And my mom, she worked at like a shoe factory, essentially managing like a conveyor belt. I'm like, see, these are two of the smartest people I know, and this is like what their life has come to.
Yeah.
Um, so it was, I don't know. I still remember like I was 7, my sister was 3, 3.5. And I was always like, I was watching my sister. I'm like looking back on it because I have a 7-year-old now. Her watching my 3-year-old, I'm like,
Yeah.
I
Just like,
cannot imagine. Are
yeah,
you
yeah,
kidding
yeah,
me? And I
yeah.
still remember, like, I was so paranoid. I would hear, um, like cop sirens, and my sister and I would immediately go underneath the bed. We're like, they're coming for us. They know we're
Oh
alone.
my goodness.
Like, I just that trauma is still in me. Just like
Wow.
I was always terrified. But I mean, it's like nothing against my parents. It's just like that's what they were.
You had to do.
That's the life that we had, right? It's American dream only works if you work.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like that mentality of like whatever it takes was instilled to me by my parents, and um, I wouldn't have it any other way because it taught me the value of hard work and making things happen.
Yeah. Who do you think that the optimism more stemmed from? Is this like a nurture thing or a nature thing for you?
Optimism. Um,
Just very upbeat and positive. Because I imagine if the things you went through, it could have had the opportunity, or could have had it could have like scarred you to a point to where like you're very negative.
yeah, that's true. My parents are both very strict. My dad doesn't smile a lot. My mom smiles. I would say it's from my mom, but then it's like another level of it. Like I think it even gets to the point where I know my mom sometimes. She's like, "Okay, you need to stop." I'm like, "Okay." Um, I think it's just I don't know. I just kind of I would say from my mom, but then I just took it to another level
Yeah. Are
because
you?
I also see it in my kids right now. Oliver, who's my middle child, he's the one that butts heads with me most,
Mm,
but I feel like he's most like me, and that's taking it to another level. So that's probably why we butt heads.
yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So, with your sister being 3 years younger than you, and you were having that role really as part parent for so many years, how did that affect your relationship growing up as you kind of came out of adolescence, teenagers, and then now to adulthood? You guys
Yeah,
close?
I don't know. It's interesting because it's like we have that 4-year gap, so it's like awkward. Like we were never in high school together, and then when I was in college, she was finally in high school. So it's like we weren't. I feel like we were just siblings during those phases of life rather than as close. But now that we're once she hit college and I graduated college, and now in adulthood, she's honestly my best friend. I talk to her every day. I FaceTime her every day. Um, and yeah, she's my best friend, which is, I'm glad we kind of get to that point. And even
Yeah.
with my parents, I feel like I've become closer with them.
Mm.
Um, just because I finally got to the point with my parents where as hard as my dad especially was on me growing up, I'm like, I'm not going to change the guy. He's in his 60s. He's seen some shit. There's no changing him at this point. But I'm like, I gotta respect that and still love him for the man that he is. I think get into because man, I could be angry. I could try to change him and just be like, I'm not changing him. Why? Like, why can't you see things? But I'm like, why am I wasting that energy? Like,
Hmm.
he is the way he is. His life has made him the type of man that he is. Having that Eastern European mentality so much ingrained in him, like, I can't change him, but I can learn about the type of person, the type of dad that I want to be,
Mm.
and I can control that, right? So that's what I'm gonna do.
What are some of the I'll call them good and bad or positive and negative? What are the some of those parenting traits that you have noticed that you've carried forward? Maybe some of them that you are really happy you've adopted, and some of them that you're like, I need to maybe axe this one.
That's a great question. I would say some of the bad, I guess you can say, is temper, impatience, I guess. There are often times where I might be short with my kids. I'm like, just do it this way, or just like blah blah blah. It's like, go do this. But that's where I kind of lucked out with the woman that I married, because she taught me a lot of those um, soft skills that about how to be a better parent as well. And but at the same time, my dad taught me what it means to be a father, to show up in ways that other fathers aren't.
Mm.
I mean, to go from coming with $1,000 in your pocket to putting a daughter through med school to become a dermatologist at the age of 25, to putting me through school, to get to this point in my life where I can have nothing to worry about. Like, I think that says a lot, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, also, it wasn't until like college that my dad would actually say the words, I love you.
Mm.
So the fact that I didn't hear much of that wasn't because he didn't love me. It's just that's not a thing you do in Albania. That's not a thing you do, or it's like like you tell your child like, "Hey, I'm proud of you," or "I love you."
Yeah.
I'm like, my kids are gonna know how much they're loved to the point where it's annoying them. But at the same time, I'm also gonna support them in any way to whatever dreams they have. As long as they're willing to work hard, they I'll be their number one supporter through thick and thin.
Yeah. Mm. On the topic of fatherhood, what is maybe one or two of the favorite moments like that you have that, and even if they're repeating moments that you have about being a dad,
About me being a dad or my dad?
about you being a father?
Um, I would say like that cliche of like the first time you meet your kid, you count all their fingers because like all you care about them is like being healthy. And I remember doing that. I'm like, these are the most 10 perfect fingers ever. And I remember another thing was that I didn't know. So most babies, when they come out, they have like hair on their back, hair on their body that kind of goes away after the first. I remember going to my wife, I'm like, babe, she has a very hairy body, but it's okay. We're going to love her so much.
That's
And
hilarious.
my wife was like, no, no, that's a thing when they come out, like when they're washed off and everything, like they usually like, I'm
Hair
like,
falls off.
oh, okay. She also has 10 fingers. So the hairy body is good. I'm like, cause it's a girl. I'm like, you also worry. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I like, she's so beautiful. I don't want her to get made fun of for having a hairy back or something
Yeah.
dumb like that. But she's 7 now and doesn't have a hairy back. So
That's really funny.
uh,
Have you
that
told
was
her
like
that story
the
yet?
first memory that stood out for me.
Yeah.
And now that they're a little bit older, it's just a lot of those firsts that I took for granted, like how they say like you'll never be able to read a book for the first time, or you'll never be able to ride a bike for the first time. Like I ride my bike every day, and to me it's like no big deal. But like
Yeah.
seeing the joy that my kids get for riding their bike for the first time without a training wheel, I'm like, that's so cool. It feels like I'm doing something for the first time.
Mm.
All these little firsts, I'm like, I've been lucky with my life and my work schedule, and that I've never missed any of their firsts,
Yeah.
um, which is pretty awesome to say, especially with 3 kids.
Yeah. Mm. And then with the Eastern European mindset that you're talking about, like the work hard, you immigrants, your family obviously wanted you to have your shot at the American dream, like you were saying, and they worked really hard to make that happen. As you started to grow up and then graduate through high school and think about college, what influence did your parents play on the direction that your life went? And are you happy with how that went? And would you change anything?
I'm very happy with the way that my life went, but I controlled a lot of my own destiny to a certain degree. So I wasn't overly ambitious. Comparing my sister and I, she's never gotten anything less than an A, like ever. like
Huh.
even through med school, even through
Wow.
residency, like nothing. Me, I'm like, B's are pretty good. I can like get away with working 70% as hard, but like sneaking a couple B's in there, like I'm good. And even though like I was in AP classes, like I did pretty well, but like I wasn't afraid of a B every now and then. My dad still holds that over my head. I'm like, look at me now. I don't have to waste all this energy to get to this point.
Yeah.
But also and then when I went to college, I sat down with my guidance counselor. I'm like, I will do anything but engineering because that's what my dad did. So I was like, I don't want him over my head. I don't want him to criticize my work. I don't want him to tell me how to do stuff. I'm like, so I asked her, I'm like, what's hard besides engineering? She's like, accounting's pretty like challenging. It's a secure job to have. I'm like, sold. Let's do it. So I always wonder if she would have said something different. Like what my,
You would
and
have
I'm the
been
type of
surprised.
person, like, I don't like changing stuff. I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm already in it at this point. Like, let's just finish it off. So I ended up going to school for accounting. Um, and I actually, it's interesting. I went to Purdue my freshman year. I followed my best friend at the time because I got like a very small scholarship to go there for paintball. Because like
Paintball.
yeah,
Dude, that's legit. I didn't know that.
I used to play professional paintball back in the day. This was like towards the end of high school, beginning of college. Traveled all around the U.S. and Canada,
Wow.
and yeah, it was awesome. So I just went, and it was cool because like the Big Ten schools had paintball programs, and we went undefeated that year, which is an awesome thing. And I remember being at the NCPA like finals, playing like Ohio State, and I was like ESPN's like MVP for the match, and we ended up winning. I was like, this is awesome.
That is awesome.
But then after doing that, I'm like, I really hate Purdue. Like West Lafayette, Indiana, kind of sucks. So then my dad always hated it that I went to Purdue. He's like, you're just going for your friends. You're just whatever. I'm like, yeah. But then I was like, all right, maybe he was right. Maybe I don't really like Purdue. So then I transferred to Marquette. Um, and then all my friends that I followed at Purdue, they're like, you're just going to Marquette because you're dating this girl who was going to school in Milwaukee. I'm like, all right, now I'm following my girlfriend. I ended up breaking up with her like 3 months into moving out there, but I loved Marquette. It was like that mini Chicago. It was like a smaller city,
Mm-hmm.
just as dirty. But it was a much smaller school, a bit more intimate. And I just really enjoyed my time there. I met some of my best friends. I enjoyed college a little too much. But
Partier?
yeah, a lot. But I still did well in school. I like ended up triple majoring. I did accounting, finance, and marketing because I needed 150
Wow.
credits
Wow.
um, for to sit for the CPA. So I still kind of did one. I did all that like triple major in 4 years, which was good because it was a very expensive school. Not because it had a great accounting program,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean it was Playboy's #1 Catholic party school, so that's kind of like a big deal. Uh, but yeah, I just really enjoyed my time at Marquette, but I made it a priority to try to graduate as soon as possible.
Not
But again, it's like it was nice to kind of like control my majors type of and trying to explain my dad like the idea of an internship. He's like, what's an internship? Like get no internships. You're taking summer school. You need the credits, graduate early. Cause that's how my parents view success. It's like straight A's, graduating early, like that. So I had to do a lot of that, like find internships on my own, do stuff that really progressed me in my career on my own. My parents had no idea. Like my dad's had the same job once he got all his like degrees and accreditations back. He's had the same job as an engineer his entire time in America. So I had to do everything on my own, but just that idea of like, well, I may not be the smartest, but I'm a work smart. Because I feel like the way I look at college, I think college is very valuable. It's a way of having something in your back pocket, some way of teaching you the value of work ethic, teaching some sort of subject matter so you can kind of figure out what your interests are.
Mhm.
But to a certain degree, I think it's a little bit more valuable, those soft skills, which you also, to a certain degree, can learn in college around how to interact with people like to develop your emotional intelligence, to know how like to move things forward, how to be a problem solver. Um, because I mean, even now in my day-to-day job, it's like any topic I can listen to a podcast, watch a YouTube video, ask ChatGPT, but they can't teach you how to instill confidence in a
In one
client,
another.
in a person, in a friend, whatever you're doing. So I think a lot of that confidence came through my interactions with people in college because it gave me a chance to kind of like get away from high school me, which wasn't anything special. I feel like college is where I really became the person that I am now.
Mm, interesting. Thanks for sharing that with such detail. As you decided, on the direction you were going with the triple major, finance, accounting, marketing, was it the idea like you wanted to go into business and startups? Because you said startups have kind of been part of your life the past, what, 3 or 4 years. So what was the aim and direction?
Um, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah.
And I think that curiosity is what kind of gets me in these type of situations. I mean, I, like I said, I don't think I'm very smart. Like I feel like even with Deloitte, like Deloitte recruits very smart people. I somehow like have snuck in to all these situations.
Why do you say that?
Um,
And how do you think that?
because Deloitte recruited heavily at any major city. It's one of the big four. And I remember like I wasn't able to get an internship with Deloitte. So my first job, I spent a year at United Airlines dealing with like revenue forecasting, which is cool, but it was very
Dry.
it felt very basic. And I'm like, I want more. I don't want to just be in a cubicle all day. So then after I got my CPA, I next door in Chicago, the Deloitte building was there, and one of the partners, I was like, I want something more than audit and tax. I'm like, so that's why I kind of found out about advisory and consulting, where you're essentially consulting on accounting problems, operational challenges that come out of accounting situations. So I was like, I was able to build a good relationship with this partner. And I think if he had just looked at my resume, my background, he's like, this isn't
Toss.
anything special. Like, we're not, but the fact that I made it a mission to get on his calendar for a lunch and then another lunch and another lunch, I think he saw, like, okay, he's good enough with accounting. And the fact that he's able to kind of instill confidence in dealing, because a big part of advisory and consulting is that client service part. Yeah, you can fix an accounting challenge that they're having, but being able to deliver the solution is is those soft skills that we kind of talked about. So I think he saw the fact that I was able to at least talk my way through a solution. And he's like, okay, so he gave me a chance. So I'm like, all right, I'm in. And then within Deloitte, there was a lot of focus around revenue recognition at the time and lease accounting. So I kind of became a specialist in those topics. And then I thought I was going to go the partner route with Deloitte. So I was able to convince them to send me to Germany to gain international business experience because like that inception, I'm like, you need me to do this, but I just really wanted the opportunity to live abroad and check.
Yeah.
But then I kind of used that experience coming back since leasing and revenue recognition was such hot topics. And I had that background. There was a lot of technology implementations on the consulting side that, Deloitte Consulting, again, another part of the big five, everyone has MBAs from Yale, Harvard. I don't even have an MBA.
Yeah.
But the fact that I had developed that background, I was able to use that as a way of kind of like sneaking into Deloitte Consulting.
Yeah. Super cool.
And then kind of just showed my value after that. And from there, and just kind of like the team management side of it, I got an opportunity to be a VP at Goldman Sachs. So I transitioned over there, and then I consider it like my midlife crisis where I was like, banking is not for me.
This ain't it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where kind of like the startup world was, where this opportunity just kind of opened the door, and I was like, well, let's see what this is like. And it felt like I always wanted to have my own business, but I feel like I didn't have that idea, that big idea. And I was like, I don't want just like a mom and pop shop. I want to be at a place that grows into something big. And with some of these startups, these unicorns, I was like, I just got to just being able to identify like what a unicorn kind of looks like, and trying to be that needle mover
Mm.
uh, has been pretty awesome. I think it's the closest that I'll have to having my own business.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We're still pretty young, man.
Yeah, yeah,
So something I've observed in my own life and in some other lives is this, and I'll preface this with saying I'm going to make some assumptions here. So if I'm completely wrong and off base, feel free to shoot me down, and we'll shift the direction of this question. But for me in my own life, with the relationship I had with my dad was obviously a complex one. It ended, when I was 16. So that created in me a lot of issues, but I would say some of the positives that it created was this really strong inner desire paired with just me being a more of a driven individual. I think it comes from this place of like I want to show someone who I deem as a really good mentor like that I can do this, or whatever you kind of tell me what to do, I can execute on that. And that's, we can unpack where all that comes from. But a lot of successful men typically do have like this somewhat of an estranged or difficult part in their relationship with their parents, primarily their father, that they're like driving after something. So for you, do you think that with just the tougher Eastern European father mindset, I think he even mentioned he didn't say he loved you for a while, like, do you think that has driven you to become more of a confidence man, get out there, make it happen, hustle, I need to figure this out type of a thing?
definitely. And I think we all strive to like that whole mentality of like my parents sacrificed so much for their kids, and it's like, okay, I want to do the same and get validation from my dad. Like I want him to understand that I'm only a sacrifice. But even to this day, my parents still work like crazy. They outwork me every single day. Like
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure out how to use a hammer, and my dad can build a house as like a side project on the weekend. And I don't think I'll ever get that validation from my dad. I've realized just because we have different skill sets, how he views hard work is different than how I view hard work. Um, but I think he'll definitely be proud of me. But how I get that validation from him, I think is different. I think like, I mean, to this day, like I still, we went, I took, like when we always like every year we spend like 3 weeks in Hawaii. And like to me, I'm like, I'm an awesome dad to be able to give my kids 3 weeks in Hawaii, playing in the sand, exploring nature, like loving life. Like, and then to my dad, he's like, what are you doing? You're taking the kids out of school, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're disappointed. I'm like, I think I'm doing a good thing as a dad. You think I'm doing a bad thing as a dad. And I'm like, we're not going to agree. We're still like, I mean, while we're in Hawaii, we're like, my kids are young. We're teaching them colors, to teaching them words, teaching them how to read. Like we still do stuff actively to keep them mentally engaged, but it's like, I'd rather have them learn by being outside and doing stuff
Mm,
outside. But like to him, he's like, oh, you're not being a good dad. What are you doing? I'm like, I think I'm being a pretty good dad by doing this.
yeah.
So like how we view success is different, and working hard, being a good father, whatever. But I feel like when he steps back and kind of looks at like, you know what, my son's pretty good. He has a pretty good life for himself. He has some awesome kids. He's doing all right. But when you start getting the details is when maybe we don't see eye to eye
Yeah.
um, about the things that we do.
Do you think it would mean a lot to you? Would it even make you emotional if your dad just would like came up to you one day, looked you in the eyes, and like, "Son, I'm proud of you and the things that you're doing."
Oh
So,
heck yeah.
yeah.
I daydream that and I get emotional. But like I
Wow.
said, I mean he's still, like I said, he has his own way of saying it and showing it. And so when he does do those little things, it means tenfold to me because I do recognize it.
Hmm.
And like I'm lucky. I have really awesome parents. And as chaotic as my childhood was, I wouldn't want any other parents just because I feel like really made me the person I am today.
Yeah. Beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. Thanks for sharing. So let's shift gears a little bit. Outside of these things, you are also a professional triathlete, which is no walk in the park. So when and where did triathlon enter Clodian's life?
Let me tell you, it was by accident. My last year of college, I woke up hungover one day and there's this thing called Al's Run in Milwaukee. I don't know what cause we're running for, but we're running for a cause. And it was a 5K. And me and my friends woke up hungover and I ran a 30-minute 5K. I was like, this is pretty freaking fast. Where can I sign up for the Olympics? Turns out you can't just sign up for the Olympics.
That's
It
amazing.
turns out a 30-minute 5K is nothing to
Pretty
be
slow. Yeah.
but that's just like I thought it was running was just so hard. All I did in like I don't have much of an athletic background. All I did in college was lift weights to like impress chicks. Turns out no chicks were getting impressed. So
Yeah.
after college, I just started incorporating like running a little bit more. And during that time, it's like I was working at United Airlines and I asked my it's one of my friends, Mike Kedzie, like, hey man, what are you doing this weekend? He's like, oh, I'm doing the Chicago Triathlon. I'm like, oh, what's that? That sounds fun. Um, he's like, well, it's like a swim bike run. I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, what do I need for that? He's like, a bike and like,
Some goggles.
yeah. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm like, so I went to a thrift store. I bought this like aluminum bike. It was a 1978 Panasonic.
Let's
I don't
go.
know if Panasonic made bikes, but they do.
Yeah.
And I used that for like a sprint triathlon. I borrowed his like goggles and pool pass and did that, like swam like twice. I'm like, all right, I didn't drown. I think I'm ready for this. And I did it, the triathlon. It was one of like the hardest things I had ever done. Um, but I like did that. I was like, that was unreal. Like by the time I got my bearings straight in the water, it was time to start biking. By the time I figured out like how to catch my breath on the bike, I had to start running. And it was just a lot going on. And then I finished it. I was like, that was really hard. I should do an Ironman next. Uh,
This was a sprint.
yeah. And I signed up for an Ironman because like everyone after college is like, oh, I'm gonna do a marathon. Everyone like wants to become a runner, and I was like, an Ironman is like a triathlon and a marathon, so it's like two birds, one stone, and then I can just stop and never do this again. And I checked two things off the bucket list. So I trained for Ironman Wisconsin, which is a very tough course,
That is very hard, Iron Man.
but I trained for that race by lifting every day, doing 2 spin classes a week, and running a 5K 3 times a week. So that's how
Wow.
I trained for my first Ironman.
How'd that go?
It didn't go that great. Uh, Again, this is how like underprepared I was. I showed up in like a pair of bike shorts. I dipped my toe in the water. I'm like, oh, it's really cold. And no wetsuit.
Oh my gosh.
And this is the time when they had like different wave starts for the age groups.
Mm-hmm.
And my age group was last. And the pro men are running through transition. And I remember running alongside them. I was like, hey, I forgot my wetsuit. Can I borrow yours? Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
Like, who is this guy?
I don't know. But I'm like, because that's how like disconnected I was. So
Yeah.
I was like, they said yes. They said yes, which is the crazy part.
Who said yes? Do you know this guy anymore?
No. And I've been
Oh,
trying
that's
so
such
hard
a
to
bummer.
track them down because I'm like, this would just be so funny to like Yeah.
Full circle with
They
that
they
thing.
said yes. So keep in mind, I have like a very expensive wetsuit, like $1,000 wetsuit, whatever, $700 wetsuit, like very high end. I still swam like an hour 45 with
Holy
this
smokes.
wetsuit. I remember like coming back to transition, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't die. Um, and then I'm like trying to run through transition. I'm like going to volunteer. They strip it off me. I'm like, this isn't mine. This is number 7. Can you go put it by their stuff? And they're confused, like, why do you have number 7's wetsuit? I'm like, I'll explain later.
Like
But
the
then,
GoPro.
so I started the bike, and then during the bike, surprisingly, it was going pretty well. And then one of the descents, I got a little too close to someone's wheel, and I ended up crashing,
Oh,
um,
dude.
which was pretty hard. So I crashed, but and I just remember I purposely crashed because I didn't want to take them out, and if I would have stayed on my course, both of us would have crashed anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I got pretty tore up, but I had this was an Ironman foundation entry. So I pretty much paid an arm and a leg for this. So I was like, I
Literally.
want to finish this race. I'm like, with how much money I paid, I'm like, I have to finish
thousand
it.
bucks. Yeah.
Yeah. And the bike tap caught up to me and he was like, yeah, your derailleur's like, we have to lock your derailleur because it's gonna go in your spokes and cause you to crash again. I'm like, I paid $1,000. I'm like, let's do it. Like, let's figure out. So I had like 2 gears for the rest of the bike.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. On that course
I
too.
still finished, and then I ran like 4 hour marathon. I ended up finishing like 14:30 or something like that with like a bruised hip, so much. Yeah, it was crazy. But then I'm like, I did that and I was like, that was really hard. I'm like, I wonder if I can go faster without crashing.
Yeah.
So then I just went down the rabbit hole and yeah, I here I am now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's a big jump. Like 14 hours to what's your fastest Ironman now?
Like
Yeah,
8:25.
which is very fast.
Yeah.
Like
So
for those who
I'm
may not
happy
know.
with the progression, and especially with just the fact of like I always tell people, I'm like, 2 things: you'll never know until you start,
Yeah.
and 2, I'm like, if I can do it, believe me, you can do it.
Yeah.
Like I don't have enough. I did math club and debate team in high school. You're good.
Yeah. So like the if you were to graph out the progression of like starting to be, a triathlete to becoming a professional, you have this big like increase and then it starts to really almost like table off. Like you can still progress, of course, but now, however many years you're into the sport, you're not seeing like you're seeing marginal improvements year over year. So what now is the motivation to keep you continuing down the path of being a professional triathlete? Because it's clearly not like, oh, I'm doing this for money. Like
Yeah. Chicks. I'm just kidding. There's no chicks in triathlon. Plus, I'm happily married, but besides the point.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, no, it's actually interesting because I feel like my times are slower now compared to when I was an amateur. Because of like amateur racing, it was just like put your head down and it felt like a time trial, and you had a lot more people kind of like to um be around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, pass and stuff.
Um, yeah, so versus now, it's like if you don't make a certain swim group, there's not a lot of other feet behind you. If you're dead last in the water, there's not
Lonely
going to be
day.
anyone else. Yeah. But I've been lucky enough to never be in that last swim group, so that's pretty nice. But I'm nowhere near the front too, which is also something. But I really just enjoy the aspect of like it's gotten to with like racing. It's actually racing. It's not like, oh, I want to see how fast I can go. Like now I care more about how I compare myself to kind of the other people that I'm like racing with, racing against. And sometimes I have my best 1 hour power uh, in a race. I'm like, all right, I'm not losing this wheel. I don't care what it takes. So just having the race dynamics, I think, is really cool. And honestly, like if it was what made me take that jump was it had been like 3 years that I kept getting that, USAT email, you've qualified for a pro license. I'm like, unsubscribe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like after 3 years of consistently being up there, I remember just having an off day in Boulder 70.3. I just felt flat. I was kind of like under the weather, and I still finished like second overall. I'm like, well, this isn't exciting anymore. I'm like, I can either quit the sport or try to do something new, something hard. And pro racing is definitely that. And it was honestly, this is the first year where I feel like a real professional, not only from the aspect of making money, but from the sense of I feel like I'm a little bit more in the races. I had a little bit of a chaotic start. I felt the fittest I'd ever felt. And then like a month before Oceanside, which was supposed to be my first race, I ended up breaking my collarbone pretty bad.
Mm.
And that sucked because it messed with me mentally. It I felt scared to ride my bike. I felt scared to push. I remember once everything healed up, then Chattanooga ended up being my first race. I remember riding on some rumble strips and I hit the brakes immediately and like had a panic attack on the course. I'm like, oh my gosh, I almost crashed. Like, what the heck? I'm like, you can't ride like that. And yeah, it was just it messed with my head. And then the following year, I felt like I was coming from way behind. I put a lot of pressure on myself, had an ego check, and was still not being able to perform just because I put all this pressure on me. I'm like, for what? And then this year, I'm like, I just kind of had a realization, like, who cares? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I place a lot more emphasis on myself. I'm like, everyone's scouring my Strava, everyone's scouring my race results. I'm like, everyone probably thinks that's what everyone's doing to them. I'm like, I doubt anyone cares. Yeah, I feel like people probably do care a little bit because I am a little loud and obnoxious. I put
Mm-hmm.
myself out there, so rightfully so. Um, but to a certain degree, I'm like, I do this sport because it's fun. I do this sport because I'm trying to show my kids that they can do really hard things, put themselves in uncomfortable situations. And I just, I get the chance to compete at a very high level. And when I stop being able to push myself and challenge myself, then I'll probably stop the sport. But right now, I'm still doing all right. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, for sure. How old are you?
34.
34. Yeah, dude. I mean, if Jan is any bit of a standard, you still got almost a decade left.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm happy about, the fact that, I'm having some of my best bike splits, like uh, Boulder, Chattanooga. Now it's like I'm biking like a 203 bike split on hard courses. I'm like, that's not bad for my life. And then like in Boise, I ended up biking something around like a 204 and with like some really awesome dudes, and
Yeah.
then being able to run like a 118. I'm like, it's not bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially like at a chaotic week. I had to take a red eye to DC for some client stuff and then flew directly from DC to Boise. I'm like, this is the worst taper ever. But I'm like, let's F around and find out type of day.
Yeah, no
Find
kidding.
out.
With your training regimen, are you coached or are you
Yeah.
self-coached?
I've had the pleasure of working with some really awesome guys. John Fetchick and Andrew Yoder have been big mentors and coaches to me over the past years. Um, as of now, I'm working with Colin Such, who's actually a good friend, and he got to the point where I was like
Yeah.
asking him some questions around training, and
Yeah, he's a
um,
good guy.
yeah, and he was like, "Hey, just give me a chance to like coach you. I think I can help you." I was like, "Let's do it."
Yeah.
And the cool thing that I've learned is like a lot of these great coaches are have very similar styles. I mean,
Yeah, what do
the
you
the
mean?
program management isn't rocket science. Like if a workout's starting to get a little too fancy to the point where you can't remember what the workout is and you have to write it down, you should probably get a new coach. Um, but just being able to kind of like plug in the right time and to really get the most out of let your body absorb the actual training, I think is where a coach comes in to be very helpful. And I think Colin being a good friend and someone who um I think he understands my body really well to the point of like knows where to put stress and when to not. Um, and just like going back to like the whole job situation, the fact that he's willing to bet on me, I'm like, I should probably believe in myself too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So, where do you spend more time as you are making decisions, whether it's being triathlete, being father, being a leader of this company? Do you spend more time in the execution of those decisions in your head or in your heart?
Uh, I feel like it's a little bit of a science. You got to marry the two, right? Like I said, I'm very passionate, very emotional with a lot of things that I do. But at the same time, you got to be able to justify the actions that you're taking. Um, it can't just be straight quantitative because I feel like that's where you kind of end up playing it safe a lot of the time. So I like having data to support why I'm doing something, but then the heart where it's like, all right, let's swing for the fence and see how far we can take it.
Yeah. Mm. So, you started this career in triathlon. It was how many years ago now? Did you say 2017 was that first race?
16.
16.
Yeah. Fifth, yeah, I think 16.
Yeah, so more so almost 10 years, going on around ish 10 years. That's a lot of time for development, a lot of time for goals to change and shift and mold. For you, when do you think that like this chapter of your life will need to be done? Is it performance based or is it going to be a mixture of that and mental? What do you think?
Here's the cool thing about this sport, right? I don't think it'll ever be done. That's the cool thing about the sport. It's like we're adults playing bikes, and that's what I love about it. Like, at what point do you stop being a kid who plays bikes to like, I'm gonna stop riding my bike because I'm an adult now?
Mm.
I mean, granted, I'm like in spandex now, so it's like a
Yeah,
different story. But that's what I love about the sport. I'm like, it's such a great way to be active, to do stuff with friends. I'll still ride my bike with my wife, still ride my bike with friends I've made in the sport. Anyone who wants to ride a bike, I think it's just the cool thing about the sport. Um, Same thing with running. Like, I think once I stop being a professional in triathlon and racing at this level, I'll probably give like ultra running a go. Because I think it's
seems
a
to be the
cool way
popular
to kind of
thing.
like see, like I did the Moab ultra marathon. And I remember at one point, like I was leading the race, typical triathlete fashion. I'm on like a cliff's edge. And I was just like full send mode, hence why I was leading. And then at one point I was like, oh my gosh, I should probably let someone else lead because I'm going to hit a corner, not realize it's a corner and die. Because you're like just on the cliff's edge. It's beautiful. It's Moab, Utah. And I'm like, this is so much better than running on the road.
Yeah,
Um, that like I hear that a lot. Like, isn't like
trail is beautiful. Yeah,
yeah, people oftentimes are like, "Oh, how do you feel about Nice or Kona about the race?" I'm like, honestly, every time I've been in Kona, I'm not really fully aware of my surroundings because I'm just in race mode. I'm not
yeah, you just
focusing. I'm
head
like, "Oh,
down.
how pretty is Hawaii?" But with like ultra running, I'm like, this is really cool. This is every time I've done a race, you start early and you're like heart rate 170 beats a minute, and the sun is rising over the crest of a beautiful mountain. You're like, this is unreal. So again, running is another thing that I'll probably still continue doing till I'm old. Swimming, I'm fine not doing that.
Yeah, yeah, as most triathletes probably are. You
Yeah.
could do Western States, bro. One of my buddies did it, Seth Rolling, and just tracking him, I was so inspired for like the 2 weeks after that. I was like, I think I want to do a 100 miler, which is insane.
Yeah. I
Let's see.
and that's where my ADD comes in. I'm trying to like really just I'm like just focus on being a good triathlete for
Yeah,
now.
for now.
I'll never be that person who's like 76 in Kona
Yeah,
doing a triathlon. Like if I ever
the
get to
oldest.
that
Yeah.
age, I'm like just end me. But I think the cool thing about the sport is like there's it's a health and wellness type of lifestyle that I don't think will ever end.
Yeah. Mm. Well, Claudine, an hour goes by super fast. You're super easy to talk to. I feel like there's a lot of other things that I could ask you, so probably gonna have to have you on again. But Thank you so much for taking the time and sharing from just the perspective that you have. I didn't know this much about you. I thought I knew you decently well, but clearly there's a lot more to know. So thanks for opening up and sharing with me, man.
I'm an onion. There's so many layers to me,
So many
Seth.
layers.
Just let me know when you want the next layer.
I will, dude, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for taking the time, dude.
Yeah. Thank you so much to Klodian for coming on the pod today and sharing, especially so deeply as he did, about his family upbringing. Always cool to me to hear the context for what makes a person who they are and why they do what they do. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. Check out the show note, description, links, and everything in there if you want to check out Klodian's stuff, to the Stupid Questions merch store, to everything else in between. If you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, if you could follow, review the podcast, leave some comments there, that'd be really helpful. And if you're on YouTube, comment, subscribe. All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.